You probably said it this week. I just don't have enough time. Not enough time to exercise. Not enough time to read. Not enough time to start the project. Not enough time to call someone you care about. Not enough time to think. Not enough time to change your life. But nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca argued that this was usually the wrong diagnosis. The problem is not always that life is too short. The problem is that we allow too much of it to disappear. We give hours to distractions, days to obligations we never truly chose, years to worrying about things that never happen. And then, when we finally look up, we wonder where the time went. Seneca understood this problem because he lived in a world filled with demands. He was not a philosopher hiding from society. He was a statesman, a writer, a wealthy Roman, and for part of his life, an advisor to Emperor Nero. His world was filled with politics, status, danger, ambition, wealth, and responsibility. Yet one of his most enduring works was about something almost everyone still struggles with today: time. In his essay, commonly known as On the Shortness of Life, Seneca challenged the belief that human life is simply too brief. His argument was more uncomfortable than that. Much of life, he believed, is lost because we fail to protect it. Think about how strange that is. If someone tried to take a large amount of your money, you would probably notice. You would defend it. You would ask questions. You might become angry. But when something takes an hour from you, you barely notice. 10 minutes checking one thing becomes 45 minutes. One unnecessary meeting becomes an afternoon. The loss feels small because it happens gradually. But time is different from money. Money can sometimes be earned again. Time cannot. Every hour you spend is gone permanently. Seneca wanted people to understand the value of that fact before old age forced them to understand it. And that may be even more important today than it was in ancient Rome, because modern life is designed to compete for your attention. Your phone wants it, your email wants it, your job wants it, advertising wants it, news wants it, entertainment wants it, other people's opinions want it. There is always something asking for a piece of your day, and most of these things do not take your time all at once. They take 5 minutes, then 10, then 20. Which is why you can be busy from morning until night and still feel like you accomplished almost nothing that mattered. Busyness and meaningful use of time are not the same thing. That distinction is crucial. A person can have a completely full calendar and still be wasting enormous portions of life. Seneca warned about people who were constantly occupied, people consumed by business, status, social obligations, possessions, and ambitions. From the outside, they looked important. But constant occupation did not necessarily mean they were living deliberately. The same is true now. You can answer 50 emails, attend 6 meetings, scroll through hundreds of posts, watch 3 hours of television, drive across town for things you barely care about, and collapse into bed feeling exhausted. You were busy. But were you actually living according to what matters to you? That is the question. Seneca's lesson is not that every minute must become productive. That would simply turn time into another source of anxiety. Rest matters. Leisure matters. Conversation matters. Doing nothing occasionally matters. The issue is not whether every moment produces something. The issue is whether your life is being spent deliberately or accidentally. There is a major difference between choosing to spend an evening watching a movie with your family and losing 3 hours scrolling through things you never intended to look at. One is a decision. The other is a surrender. And this is where Seneca's philosophy becomes practical. You do not necessarily need a better productivity system. You may need stronger boundaries around your attention. Start by noticing where your time actually goes. Not where you think it goes, where it really goes. For the next few days, pay attention. How often do you pick up your phone without a reason? How much time disappears into conversations you do not want to have? How many obligations remain in your life simply because you never decided to remove them? How often do you spend the present worrying about the future? This last one is especially important because distraction is not the only way we waste time. Worry can consume life just as effectively. You can lose an entire afternoon to a problem that has not happened. You can lose months worrying about what someone thinks of you. You can lose years waiting for circumstances to become perfect before you begin. And while your mind lives somewhere else, your actual life keeps moving. There is another lesson here. Stop assuming that important things can always be postponed. We often treat meaningful goals as if they belong to some future version of our lives. I will get serious about my health later. I will write the book later. I will spend more time with my children later. I will travel later. I will slow down later. I will finally do the thing I care about when life becomes less busy. But life rarely becomes less busy on its own. The empty space you are waiting for usually has to be created. If something matters, it must receive time before everything else consumes it. This does not require rebuilding your entire life tomorrow. It might mean protecting 30 minutes in the morning. It might mean saying no to something that has no real value. It might mean deleting one app, turning off notifications, leaving your phone in another room, declining an invitation, taking a walk without headphones, reading 10 pages instead of scrolling, having dinner without a screen nearby. Small decisions reclaim pieces of your life, and pieces become hours. Hours become days. Days become years. That is why this idea matters so much. We often imagine that wasting time means doing nothing, but some of the biggest wastes of time look respectable, endless work that serves no meaningful purpose. Chasing approval, trying to impress people, arguing with strangers, maintaining relationships out of obligation, worrying about status, constantly preparing to live instead of actually living. Seneca saw these traps in ancient Rome. We simply have modern versions of them. The technology changed. Human nature did not. And there is one final reason to take his warning seriously. You do not know how much time you have. None of us do. We casually make plans for next year, as though next year were guaranteed. We delay the things that matter because tomorrow feels unlimited. But every life has a final day, and almost no one knows which day it will be. That is not meant to be depressing. It is meant to clarify things. Because when you remember that time is limited, many things suddenly lose their importance. The argument you were replaying in your head, the stranger's opinion, the meaningless obligation, the hour you were about to give away without thinking. You begin asking a better question. Is this worth part of my life? Because that is what every decision really costs. Not minutes, life. So the next time you say, I don't have enough time, remember Seneca. Maybe the answer is not to find more hours. Maybe the answer is to defend the hours you already have. Protect your attention. Choose your obligations carefully. Stop postponing what matters. And do not confuse being busy with truly living. You may have more time than you think, but only if you stop giving it away.